No one's coming. That's the truth they don't teach you in school, and most people spend their whole lives trying to avoid it. They wait for a miracle, a breakthrough, a mentor to take their hand and lead them out of their mess. But the clock keeps ticking, and nothing changes. Why? Because they're waiting for someone to do the work only they can do. They haven't accepted the truth that no one owes them success, happiness, freedom, or even a second chance. You want to win? Understand this first. The world doesn't hand out trophies for potential. It rewards action, clarity, and relentless self-responsibility. When you think the world owes you something, you move through life like a beggar, not a builder. You seek validation, you chase comfort, and you blame others when things go wrong. But the moment you accept that no one is responsible for your outcome, but you, everything shifts. You stop expecting. You start creating. You stop hoping someone will save you, and you begin saving yourself. And that's when power is born, not from money, not from praise, but from knowing deep down that no matter what happens, you will respond with force, not fear. The idea that help is on the way is a dangerous illusion. It keeps people asleep. It makes them passive in a world that rewards the aggressive. It makes them reactive in a game that requires initiative. You don't get to the top by hoping someone will pull you up. You get there by building your own ladder, one painful, lonely, disciplined step at a time. There's no shortcut, no cheat code, no overnight rise. There's only you, your decisions, and how urgently you treat every single day. Winners don't wait for life to get easier. They get stronger. They don't sit around hoping things will change. They make the change. That's what separates the weak from the unstoppable. Not their talent, not their luck, but their mindset. One sees challenge and says, "Why me?" The other sees it and says, "Try me." If you're still blaming your environment, your upbringing, or your circumstances, you're giving away the most important thing you have, control. And without control, you stay trapped in a life you never truly chose. The man who owns his life doesn't ask for permission. He doesn't complain when things are hard. He sees every obstacle as a test of his ability to adapt, endure, and overcome. He knows no one is coming, and that realization fuels him. It lights a fire that burns through excuses, delays, and distractions. Because when you stop waiting, you start moving. And when you move with purpose, the world moves with you, not out of pity, but out of respect. That's how self-made legends are built, not in comfort, not with help, but in solitude, sacrifice, and unshakable belief in personal responsibility. Every successful man is self-made. He simply decided to stop waiting. He didn't wait for approval, for applause, or for the perfect conditions. He understood early on that nothing would be handed to him, and if he didn't create his own path, he'd spend his life walking the one designed for him by others. The idea of being self-made isn't about ego. It's about responsibility. It's the realization that no one can want your success more than you, that no one will put in the work for you, and no one will fight for your dream if you're not willing to fight for it first. You'll notice something about people who rise. They have a different urgency. They don't hit snooze, not just on alarms, but on life. They don't spend years in neutral, waiting for a sign. They don't treat time like it's unlimited. They see it as fuel, burning whether you use it or not. And so they act. While others think, they move. While others plan, they execute. While others dream, they build. That's how winners are made. Not by accident, not by fortune, but by decision. A decision to stop waiting and start becoming. A decision to take the weight of their future into their own hands. You were born with potential, not guarantees. It's your duty to activate it. There's no man or woman on earth who arrived with everything figured out. Everyone starts the same, confused, uncertain, raw. But what separates the average from the exceptional is what they do with that uncertainty. Most run from it. Some distract themselves. But a few, they lean in. They say, "I might not be ready, but I'll get ready on the way." And that's where greatness begins. Not with clarity, but with commitment. You don't need the perfect plan. You need the courage to take the first step and the resilience to take 1,000 more when things get hard. Potential is just a spark. It means nothing unless you turn it into flame. You've seen people with talent waste it. You've seen people with every advantage still lose. Why? Because talent without action dies. Because potential without pressure rots. You have something inside you that most people will never access, not because they can't, but because they won't. They settle for average. They hide behind distractions. They accept mediocrity, dressed up as realism. But you don't have to. You have the power to tap into something greater. You have the power to use every failure as fuel, every delay as direction, and every hardship as hammer strokes, shaping the man you're becoming. You weren't born to coast. You weren't born to survive. You were born to create, to lead, to build. But that only happens when you take responsibility for your potential and stop waiting for it to magically unfold. The world won't hand you your purpose. You have to claim it. You have to wake up and work it out, piece by piece, day by day. That's the only way it becomes real. Progress begins the moment you stop asking for permission and start acting with purpose. Most people never begin because they think they need someone to tell them it's okay to start. They wait for signs, for validation, for support, not realizing that this hesitation is the very thing keeping them small. You don't need a green light when the road is yours to build. Every second you spend waiting for approval is a second stolen from your dream. The people who rise don't wait for the world to recognize their value. They act like it's already known. They don't ask, "Can I?" They declare, "I will." Look around at the world today. The ones making impact, building empires, and shaping industries didn't start with everyone clapping for them. They started with a burning reason, a vision that made them get up when no one else would. They moved without permission, and that boldness created waves. While others were stuck planning and second-guessing, they were out executing. The truth is, no one will give you the green light until you show you don't need it. And that only happens when you shift from living reactively to living intentionally. From asking for chances to taking command. Acting with purpose means you don't wake up and just see where the day takes you. You already know. Your goals shape your schedule, not your feelings. Your mission drives your choices, not your mood. And when you begin to live like that, deliberate, focused, unapologetic, something shifts. You stop shrinking. You stop waiting. You begin showing up like the person you were meant to be, even before the results come. And that energy, that presence, that's what changes your life. Faith in yourself must be stronger than fear of failure. This isn't about arrogance. It's about alignment. You must believe in your ability to learn, adapt, and rise more than you believe in your ability to lose. Because failure is inevitable, but staying down is optional. Too many people live in the shadows of what if? What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? What if they laugh at me? But the real question is, what if you succeed? What if the risk works? What if your decision to move despite the fear becomes the turning point of your life? Most people treat failure like it's final, like it's proof they should have never tried. But the ones who win, they treat failure like data, like information, like feedback from life itself saying, here's how to do it better. They don't get emotional about mistakes. They get strategic, because they know success isn't a straight line. It's a messy, brutal, beautiful climb. And the only ones who make it to the top are those who trust themselves enough to keep going. You don't need blind confidence. You need unshakable belief in your ability to keep showing up, to get up every time you're knocked down, to speak your vision even when your voice shakes. That's what separates those who almost made it from those who did. Not talent, not timing, just belief backed by relentless action. Life rewards those who initiate, not those who hesitate. While most people are waiting for the perfect time, the ones who win are already halfway to the goal. Hesitation is the silent killer of dreams. It looks innocent. It wears the mask of caution, logic, patience. But underneath, it's fear. And fear left unchecked becomes paralysis. Every time you hesitate, you delay your growth. Every time you say maybe later, someone else says now, and takes the opportunity you were too slow to claim. Success isn't about having all the answers before you begin. It's about beginning and figuring it out on the way. The world doesn't sit still. It doesn't wait for you to be ready. It keeps moving. And the ones who move with it are the ones who shape it. You don't need more time to think. You need more courage to act. The man who hesitates becomes a spectator in his own life, watching others build what he could have built, live what he could have lived, simply because he didn't move. If you want to win, you must become a person of action. You must train yourself to start fast, focused, and fearless. Because when you take initiative, you gain momentum. And momentum multiplies everything. Excuses are the language of the powerless. Replace them with action. Every excuse you make is a brick in the wall between you and your potential. I'm tired. I'm too busy. I don't know how. These are not reasons. They are habits, patterns, repeated scripts people use to justify staying average. But those who break out of mediocrity have a different code. They replace excuses with execution. They don't talk about what they can't do. They focus on what they can do. Right now, with what they have. You can tell everything about a person's future by how they speak when things go wrong. The weak blame, the strong build. The weak explain, the strong execute. If you constantly explain your lack of progress with stories, circumstances, and distractions, you are choosing comfort over control. But if you start taking action in the middle of chaos, if you start building even when it's messy, even when you're uncertain, that's when you start reclaiming your power. Excuses sound best to the person making them, but success doesn't care. Results don't come from stories. They come from action, discipline, movement. The smallest action destroys the biggest excuse. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to show up, again and again, especially on the days you don't want to. That's where power is built. That's where confidence is born. That's how results are earned. Not from comfort, not from logic, but from repeated action in the face of resistance. When you replace hesitation with movement, and excuses with discipline, you start seeing changes others think are impossible. Not because you had better luck, but because you refused to sit still. You stopped talking and started building, and that shift changes everything. The longer you sleep on your gift, the longer you serve someone else's dream. Every person is born with something unique, an ability, a perspective, a strength that no one else can replicate. But most people never discover it. Not because it isn't there, but because they're too distracted, too comfortable, or too afraid to pursue it. So they bury it under jobs they hate, routines that numb them, and entertainment that keeps them quiet. They trade their potential for security and wonder why they feel empty. The truth is, every day you delay stepping into your gift is another day spent building someone else's vision, clocking into someone else's system, being a tool in someone else's machine. It's not that working for others is wrong. It's that doing it forever without ever building your own is a silent form of surrender. You weren't created to exist just to fulfill instructions. You were built to create, to think, to lead, to innovate. But that requires risk. It requires you to believe in something that hasn't shown results yet. It demands you to move before it makes sense to anyone else. And that's what most people avoid. They wait for certainty. They wait for signs. They wait until they're ready. But while they wait, someone with less talent but more urgency is already executing. You were not built to be saved. You were built to rise. There is no hero coming, no perfect mentor, no lucky break. No shortcut will suddenly appear and lift you out of your mess. That's the hard truth. But it's also the most freeing, because once you stop hoping for rescue, you start building your escape. You realize that no one can do for you what you must do for yourself. No one can teach you discipline. No one can give you vision. No one can hand you consistency. That's your responsibility. Rising isn't about being the loudest, the smartest, or the most gifted. It's about being the most committed. It's about refusing to accept mediocrity, no matter how normal it looks. It's about deciding that average isn't your destiny, and then doing the work every day to prove it. And that work starts in the dark, when no one is watching, when no one believes, when nothing is working. That's when you build the foundation. That's when you rise. Not when it's easy, not when it's obvious, but when it's uncomfortable, inconvenient, and uncertain. The people who win in life aren't waiting to be discovered. They're too busy developing. They're sharpening their skills, expanding their mind, and multiplying their value. They're not waiting to be chosen. They've already chosen themselves. And that belief, backed by relentless action, becomes unstoppable. You can either wait for someone to recognize your worth, or you can rise and force the world to see it. That choice is yours. It always has been.